Hi, I'm Dr. Lance Knob with the Denali Consulting and 4% Breakthrough Communities, and I'm here today with Brandon Neely, President and CEO of Wealth Wisdom Financials. Brandon, so excited to talk today. I want to tell everybody about your story and your message. I know you and your wife started with a small coffee shop, and you guys were literally living off the tip jar, I understand. And you guys managed to turn it around, sell the business, and now you're paying all your knowledge of entrepreneurship and economics and the financials in your new business. Tell us this story, please.
Yeah. Well, Lance, thanks for having me. And one of the things I like about doing this is, we all have our war wounds, histories, and sometimes we want to go back and we want to do things differently, but our histories is what made us who we are. Right. And so I just want to, like, as people are going through their own issues, right? Don't neglect some of the pain and some of the hard things that happen because we're part of a bigger story, and my story has been helpful. I would never want to relive some of those things, but it is why I do what I do now. So yeah, for me, I work with my wife. I would say we're co-owners in this, co-CEOs in all of this. But I'm more the visionary entrepreneur type. She was he has another crazy idea. Let's figure that one out. So I had the crazy idea of starting a coffee shop, making a difference in the world, all of that. And well, she was like, all right, we got to figure out how to do this. So we launched this business. This is in 2011, right? Um, and right after the Great Recession, probably not the best time to start a brick and mortar business, but we decided to do it anyway. We didn't have a rich relative to help us. We didn't have any of that. I don't know what you call it. Um, Money, maybe that's a good word. We didn't have a lot of money, but we had some passion, and so what we did was take on a lot of credit cards to get it going. Because you think we what we thought was 0% interest credit cards, and in 6 months I could totally make some money in 6 months. Well, one long story short, it takes more than 6 months to do all the build out, just so you know, as you're
Wow. Oh, yeah.
growing that stuff. So as we started, we built it, and you know that if you build it, they will come thing. Well, doesn't always necessarily work that way. There's a lot of marketing, and even your mom might like you on social media, but she's not going to drive far away to buy a cup of coffee if it's not convenient. So
Absolutely.
we were living off the tip jars. We were doing all the right things, we thought, but it was still a challenge. It was literally a grind. I mean, we had a coffee shop. It was a grind, um, grinding every day. So we have since moved on from that. But what I learned in that was a couple things, and feel free to stop me if I'm
No, this
rambling
is
or
good.
anything like
Please
that.
tell us.
But But what I learned was, okay, three things that I tell every business owner. You need to know that you know that you know that you're called to it. Right? If you don't know, it will get hard. I don't know if you know this, but life is challenging. Starting a business is hard. You mentioned that what is it? 96% of businesses don't make it. We're
Yep.
actually celebrating tomorrow is our 5-year anniversary in this business, the financial services business.
Congratulations.
Majority of businesses don't make it. 95% of the small businesses fail within the first 5 years, right? So, so what I learned in that, and my previous business, we lasted 7 years. So I'm on a pretty good track record. Um, but a couple things I learned was know that you know that you know that you're called, because there will be painful things that happen. There's a lot of growth that happens. It's kind of like having a baby in the beginning. You have to wipe the diapers and do all the crazy stuff that you wish you didn't have to, but it's growing. The business is growing. So that's my first one, is know that you know, because there's a lot of crap that happens. Um, the second is have a team around you that cares about you. Uh, so that way, they can care about you, not just your stuff, right? What you produce, right? That's a really important thing, I think. And then the third for me was know your numbers. That was something that I felt like we knew. We did all the Dave Ramsey stuff. We did the Susie Orman things. We were reading it by the book. But there's some things I learned throughout my move in that business that kind of transitioned me and why I'm in the business I am in now. Uh, because man, it was hard. Um, but ultimately, we moved from that business. We had some really challenging times. Again, we didn't pay ourselves very much, but what we found was in 6 years into the business, right? We were caretakers of my mother-in-law. That was interesting, right, in and of itself. And we found out we were expecting, right? So couple things I've learned in that is I can eat ramen all day. I can kind of, uh, you know, be in a painful situation, I guess you could say,
Hmm.
for me and my family. I mean, for me, but when you have a child, things change,
For
right?
sure.
And I need to make sure that our business name was called Overflow. But if I can't overflow for myself into the other things, then I don't have a healthy business. And it's not just in business in that regard of finances, but it's all the other areas: physical, emotional, spiritual, uh, overflow. So that's ultimately why we sold the business and moved on. We did learn a lot of painful things along the way, and that's why I'm now in the financial services of all things.
Hard to believe. Listen, kudos to you for so much, for pivoting into what you absolutely love, into powering through, and really making health and balance a priority. And congratulations on the anniversary. Actually, I realized Denali Consulting will be coming up on its 5th year anniversary, probably February or March. So pretty exciting as well. Um, so yeah, so that's a great list. I mean, I think I certainly resonate with those, and definitely some real pearls there. So with this survival stats, right, whether it be
Hmm.
96%, the numbers are all pretty close. What advice would you have for someone with everything you've learned on either starting a business or turning around a struggling business? How would you recommend somebody do that?
Yeah, I would say those three things of kind of know that you're called to it. Because if you're not passionate about it in your business, then you have to have a passion for it. Like you have to almost like be sleeping and wake up because you want to deal with a client problem or whatever. I don't know, some weird stuff. You got to be a little weird, right? And passionate in that way. Having that team and then knowing your numbers. Too many business owners that I think, and this is why I'm a profit first and why I love infinite banking, is if you don't know your numbers and you just say, well, I'll deal with that later, you need to be the CFO of your own business, right? And you can start when you're younger, right? You can start earlier. And so that's something I think is really, really important. And so having um, that idea of knowing your numbers starts with knowing your opex, knowing where you're at in all of those areas. And I'm pretty sure I lost you, but I'm going to keep going either way because there you are. I don't know, did I lose you or were you?
No, no, you were just getting spotlighted. You're all good.
Oh, good. I was like, oh, he's gone, but I'm gonna keep going. Um, so that knowing your numbers is super important. That's again why profit first for me is it was a powerful piece, because making sure you're paying yourself is key, right? You're your greatest asset. What I
Tell
love
me,
about profit
totally. I
first
mean,
is,
we're both big profit first. Sorry to interrupt, but tell me
yeah,
your, let's go a little bit under the hood. How does a new business owner or a struggling business owner start to become their own CFO and start to implement profit first? Do you follow the
yeah.
profit first purely, or have you modified it, or how can people start to make it happen?
Yeah, I think first you want to read the book, right? And if anybody, there's no right way to do it, right? Every business is a little unique and different. But part of it is okay. So some people they say, well, I can't afford to pay myself in my business. I'm like, no, you need to actually start reverse engineering. And even if it's 10%, and your OpEx is 90%, right? And I'm not even talking about taxes, right? But putting it kind of like the buckets, right? Or the envelope system that Dave Ramsey says. You want to give your dollars jobs. You want to say, okay, this money I'm going to allocate towards taxes because it is not my money, right? Uh, but what we need to make sure of, and what Mike says is make sure that you start with profit first and then reverse engineer it versus let me pay everybody else out and then eventually I'll pay myself and hopefully taxes I'll have enough in the sale to pay my taxes because I spent it all. Well, that's not the best way to go because that's hoping that we're going to get a sale, which we don't know, right? And so it's really, I can go into my phone, right? And I can look in there right now and tell you how much is in my OPEX, how much is in my owner's pay, and all of that. And it's really easy to make smart decisions on how do I want to grow this business.
I love that. I definitely want to see the details of your process. I definitely have some people that I work with that could benefit from that. Um, so often, right? It's profit last instead of
Yeah.
profit first. And, I really resonate with, paying ourselves first, right? So, and just like in life and business, like you said, really setting some of those things up like nutrition, sleep, exercise, all those things that you kind of alluded
Yeah.
to, having a well-rounded life. And for anyone listening, please post any questions. I'm not sure that everything's going to flow in to StreamYard here, but Hannah behind the scenes, Hannah Hernandez, is going to help make sure it all gets here. So please.
Yeah, I'd love to hear any comments, anything. If you think I'm crazy, whatever, I want to hear it. So,
Yeah.
uh,
So tell us who your ideal client is, and what makes you different, from a small business owner of a coffee shop to now be in the financial services industry, right? A really
mhm.
regulated, competitive industry. What would make you stand out? Why would someone choose you?
Yeah. So I think some is I'm in the life insurance space and annuity space, and I do a lot with infinite banking. And as you build a policy, for me, I'm like reverse engineering, reverse architecting this, and just thinking about okay, where does a life insurance policy does it fit, right? Where does just the profit first system fit in there? And also being a business owner myself, you could have a guide or a money manager that's going to help manage your money, but they don't understand that you're a business owner and how the business operates, or you don't even know how to read a P&L statement for that matter. And so I think that for me, it's like I love working with business owners because I want to see, as you were talking about in yours, that 4%. I want to see that changed, not from 4%, but how's it 5, 10, 15? And a lot of times it's knowing those numbers so you can make those smart decisions. So what we've been doing, and I think you joined our community. So we have
Yes.
some quests in our community, right? That are like little cheat sheets that we've used over the course of time that have created like a dashboard, almost like a jet. When you fly in an airplane, there's all these like dials and things that you just have no idea. But as a business owner, you start learning what those dials are, and you're able to turn or do this. Well, from a financial side, you need to know how the dials work to be able to make smart decisions. But ultimately, as a business owner, you're responsible for, I don't know, making money, which is really important, but also keeping money and growing, training. There's so many aspects of your business, and you have to almost be everything to all people, and you can't. So what we've created is a framework or method that has helped us think through it, right? Because I do this with my wife, but
Tell
not
us.
everybody has
Tell us your
a
framework.
wife.
Yeah, tell us your
Yeah.
framework. This would be awesome.
So yeah, so of course in the community we have a way to process this, but it's the still method, right? So if you go into the community and there's a little quest that we have created, but in there, um, in any business, again, reverse architecting, right? We need to reverse architect our lives, and so the method is called still method, right? And so what you have to start with is the S with it, which is set your sights, right? If you don't know where you're going, and this is the problem in our world, most people have no idea. They just give it to somebody else to manage, and then they wonder why they're depressed and broken or other things. So you need to set your sights, right? Then from that, this can be, what kind of marriage do I want? What kind of physical fitness do I want? All of that stuff is setting your sights. Then you have to track, right? Track your in and out. This is budgeting, the word that people love to hate on. But there's another quest that we have in our community called manage cash flow like a millionaire. I bet you Jeff Bezos knows where things are going. He tracks it. He might have a lot of people to help him track it, but we need to be doing that too, right? So track. Then you have to inspect. You can't just track it. You got to inspect, right? And that's kind of, if it's going to the gym, it's inspecting. All right, I'm showing up, but I need to like inspect how am I doing on these things. Then the way to really make things happen is look for 1% adjustments, not the big uh grand slams, but it's the base hits, right? So making those 1% adjustments over time, that's where I tell people, as far as running a profitable not business, is you're just making 1% allocations. You might have started you paying at 10%, right? Of money coming in, but you move it up to 11, 12 over the course, right? And then so it's look for 1% adjustments and live deliberately. Again, most people are not deliberate in life, in their finances, in all kinds of areas, and you have to be deliberate. That's kind of like the rock analogy, right? We need to put the big rocks in
Yeah.
so we can know how to move forward.
Well, I
So
love
that's our still method.
love it.
Uh,
Yeah. Budgeting is not a popular word in my home either, so I know that what you said rings home. And yeah, the 1% adjustments and even dialing up the notch on owners paying themselves. What is a target that you like to get to? Do you sort of have like a black belt goal? There's a dentalpreneur podcast,
yeah.
and he's got specific targets. Do you have like a top tier range so we know what to shoot for?
Yeah, it depends on where you're at on your top line revenue, right? So if you're doing profit first, right? My metrics, right? If I have 100% coming in, well, 50% should be owners pay, right? So 50% owners pay, 30% OPEX, 15% towards taxes, and then 5% towards profit. Now that's in a smaller business, but then as you grow, right, it might take a lot more OPEX to run that business. So your OPEX might increase as you're above I think it's like $500,000 revenue coming in, right? And so then that changes, and my owner's pay might be lower, but as I'm a smaller business, I want to increase my owner's comp, and then if I'm a really large business, my owner's comp isn't going to be 50% of a, $3 million business, maybe, but it's coming from the profit distributions and other areas. So the short answer to that is you have to see where your business is 1% investments, making sure it's a healthy business, not just a really big business that you're not making anything out of it. Or you could be on the other end of the spectrum where you're paying yourself too much and not really feeding the business, right? And so you want to like balance those two things.
Yeah, for sure. I love that because, one thing I'm definitely in alignment. I love to make sure owners are getting paid, equivalently to the roles they have, what responsibilities, what hats they're wearing, and then still to
Yeah.
be 20 to 30% pre-tax profit after that. So it's nice to hear a little refresher on 50% owner's comp for the smaller businesses. And even if you start with 5%, but work your way up. But I think that 50% you're right. Probably most owners are wearing most of the hats. So 50% is probably still not even competitive. They're probably still getting paid below market. They
Yeah.
couldn't replace those hats, just to be
Yeah.
fair.
Can I share my screen? Would that be helpful?
Um,
I don't know if
you're
I can do
certainly
that.
welcome to. Let's see. You want to try and see if you can? I'm not sure if I have to change anything.
Let's see here. Just for fun. This was something that my wife created. Can you see this here?
Yes. Yep.
So this is a cheat sheet in our community that if you are in the community program, and it's one of the quests that she created. She's a genius, right? So she just figured out, okay, how do I create an Excel sheet that tells me everything? So, we have our breakdown, right? And she is able to tell us, right, how much we can do, right, to get our numbers right, right? So this is going to just tell me what my OPEX is and all that on a monthly basis. That she literally did some amazing work here. But really, this is kind of how I base it, and I'm saying, okay, how much is coming in? What's my real revenue? And then I just break it up according to these percentages.
That's
Um,
amazing. I love seeing it in
yeah,
black and white and writing. This is good. So for those of
yeah,
you who are audio only, you'll have to check us out on video later to see that.
yeah,
So, just to get to know you a little bit better, Brandon, I know we just met more recently in December when I was a guest on your show. So everyone, please check out Brandon's show, Wealth Wisdom, and please check out our episode. Remind me where you're coming from. Where
yeah.
are you? Yeah, where are you
Where
in
am
the
I physically? I am
physical?
in Ohio. I used
That's
to live
right.
in Chicago, and now I'm in Cincinnati. And one of the companies I work with is here in Cincinnati. They help build this Cincinnati Western and Southern. So um, yeah, being in the insurance space has been really weird to go from coffee to money, and then realizing that there's a lot of opinions out there that I don't know if they're right or wrong. Sometimes I'm like, no, maybe you're anyway. Um, Not going to go into that, but really doing the infinite banking thing, I love this world. Just didn't realize it was going to be like uh, arguments sometimes.
You seem like you're having a lot of fun, and I can relate to that, right? I'm trained as a physical therapist, and now I'm 5 years into,
Yeah,
coaching and consulting, and it's a hell of a lot of fun. It's not easy, and personally, I took a much harder path and did not focus on physical therapists and fitness
yeah,
professionals, and kind of love helping entrepreneurs who have six-figure businesses and want to hit the seven-figure mark and are feeling overstressed, overwhelmed. So kudos to you for making it happen in a new industry and beating the 5-year mark. And
yeah,
yes, with financials, there are so many damn opinions, right? So much varying thought, but that's fun for you probably to try to maybe help people
yeah,
navigate things. And maybe things are meant to be customized to the individual. Maybe there can be a lot of prevailing varying opinion. But why don't you tell us a little bit? You mentioned that word a couple times, infinite banking. I don't personally know much about that, and even the bank on yourself. I'm not sure if that's connected or not,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
tell us about that.
Yeah, so as I was building these um our business, right? Our biggest risk was us, and our biggest investment is was us. And I needed to make sure that if something happened to me, that my wife was made whole, right? At least in a better place, right? Um, Financially and all that. So we had watched this documentary. This was in the coffee shop years, uh, called Banking with Life, and learned about this concept of infinite banking, and was like, wait a second, why are we divesting out of our business and all of that? And how can I make sure that I have a good stability and savings component, so that way, if something happens, I can use my what I have available to grow my wealth, right? And so, infinite banking and banking yourself. Banking yourself is kind of like a brand of infinite banking, and I really love the banking yourself brand because it's uh, regulated a lot more, and I know that Pamela Yellen, the founder, has a lot of uh, guidelines for how this concept is used, right? So, because there's a lot of like in all these industries, there's a lot of people who's, oh, I do that, but they don't, right? You know, I'm a coach, but they're not, right? And so what I found with the infinite banking concept is I was able to save for future me, but also using the policy, I was able to take an advance from my policy, which is a whole life insurance, properly designed with cash value component, right? That I can access and use. And it's not an IUL type deal. It's for me, it's a properly designed whole life insurance. And I was able to use that cash value to, uh, well, take care of some high interest debt from the coffee shop and pay it back to myself. Right. And then I was able to use it for an emergency in the coffee shop, which was a flood that I don't recommend people going through floods, but it happens. Like business and things like that happen. Right. So I was able to overcome that. I was able to use my cash value in my policy for 20% down on my personal residence, right, while I'm changing businesses, by the way, and going from one industry to another, but able to use it for that. And most recently I've used that same equity in my policies to buy commercial real estate for my office. So now I personally own my policy. My policy then gives uh, we buy the condo, right? That I personally own as a business, and then my business is paying me rent, which is a really cool thing. And so it's going back into it, and I'm able to use the bank's money as well as my money to build my wealth, and all doing it by while building a foundational wealth system, because ultimately I don't know what the future holds, but I want to have as much stability, a strong foundation, so I can take bigger risks. The problem is most people's finances are upside down pyramids, and they're taking risks and hoping for a reward when they don't have a good core and a good foundation.
Well, that's an amazing story how you're using that. You use that whole life, right? Both your personal home down payment and then your commercial real estate. Now you own your business location.
Yes.
That's impressive and amazing. So let's connect this to both business owners and for non-owners. I know you serve some non-owners as well.
Yeah.
So what would be some, if there's any additional recommendations for business owners on investing, like whether or not they should use a 401k and, almost like Ramit Sethi, whether he's got like a hierarchy of investing, if you have
Yeah.
any, kind of frameworks like that. And then for non-owners, what should their first steps be?
Yeah, the main thing is really question why you do what you do, right? Doing a full, like for me, talking to somebody like me and doing a full financial analysis, a lot of times, well, I put into my 401k because my employer matches, and I don't know why this is, and blah blah blah. Like, and a lot of times we don't know, right? And so again, reverse architecting and reverse thinking about why we do what we do. And here's the thing: this is why I like banking yourself and infinite banking. We finance everything we buy. It's just what infinite banking is. It's not an investment, it's a savings vehicle. It's just a way to think about how money coming through can be used to grow my wealth, right? And it's again not an investment, but I am the greatest investment. So if I can use my cash value, right, to grow my wealth by maybe even taking a loan to pay staff, right? Because as you build up your team, it doesn't just necessarily happen quickly that you get the returns, right? And so sometimes you need that equity up front, but yeah, I want to make sure I'm being smart about it. So
So you do, it looks like you're looking at it, but you do have a question here. Someone loves infinite
yeah.
banking. Go ahead. You can.
Let's see. But with rates away from zero bound floating at uh, WSJ plus equals 10%. Infinite banking is less attractive. Also, life insurance, high cash value can be expensive. What's the average break even in years that you need to contribute for it to be worth it? So that's a great question. So what's the average break even? So I can tell you and people always say there's so much cost to it. It costs too much. Well, I could tell you with my policies, where if I put in knowing the guarantees and I use specifically design policies, 4 years, there's going to be a break even for sure where it's going to start growing more than you put in, right? Again, it's not an investment, it's a savings vehicle. But let me ask you this: most people are in business, right? And they never know when they're going to be profitable, right? It's a business model for me, and I know that there's a cost to start, like any business model, but I could tell you within the contract where it's going to be profitable. And if I have access to capital, it's just a storehouse that I'm able to then use to grow my wealth. So if I'm running a business, I for example, use my policy. I have a big one. I save for taxes in my policy. So I put money into my policy that I'm saving for taxes, and I'll reallocate it. Hopefully, my tax accountant, his job is to make my bill as low as possible, right? That's his job. My job is to make as much money as possible, but I also need to make sure that I save as much to take care of the tax bill. Where I save it, it could go into a low interest savings account or nothing, or I can put it into a policy, and then I'm able to allocate it along with other money for the things that I need to grow or do in my business. So I'm using the profit first system, right? And those 5 different bank accounts with profit first. The only difference is one of those bank accounts just happens to be a life insurance policy.
Yeah. Well, you are connecting some dots, Brandon. And I mentioned to you in our pre-talk and, our other interview that, I did a heck of a lot of research on insurance, life insurance. So yeah, it's complex. So, definitely thanks for breaking some of that down for us. So in our last minute or two, let me know if there's anything that we did not touch on that you'd like to share. And then definitely let us know any offers, gifts, resources, how we can get in touch with you, my friend.
Yeah. Well, I would say that this is the thing. Life is complex, right? And that this is so crazy that people will say, well, I don't understand it. But then they put money into their 401k and they don't understand that either. And I'm like, man, how come you're not asking those guys? It's just as complicated. And sometimes for me, it's even taking the time to understand high level, right? Having a guide along the way, right? I don't know how a car works, the engine, right? but I do have some trust in my mechanic to help me, right? And so those are things that I think about as having a good team around you, from Dr. Lance to us or whatever, that can help you grow, is my main thing. And that, and realizing there's a lot of stuff that we think we know that just ain't so. Um, that's a true fact. You can find anything that you want on the internet, uh, both ways you want to go, right? But finding out what works for you. So, as far as where to find us, go to Wealth Wisdom Financial. There's a podcast that we have. We have a YouTube channel. I just did a video on why not to invest in a 401k. Which is crazy, interesting. I'm still growing on my. I got some hateful comments, right? Which is, it's good when you're getting comments, because that means people are listening.
Totally.
Right? They're like, "Yeah, your presentation sucks." I'm like, "Well, whatever. At least I'm building stuff."
Dude, that's a milestone when you're getting haters. That's awesome. Good job.
Yeah, right. So do that, and then we have a report. If you go to wealthwisdomfp.com/report, there is a report that we have, is 5 simple steps to secure your financial future outside of a W-2. So that one is, I think, a really great resource that I really want more and more people to understand. And it's kind of combining the profit first system, the infinite banking system, but it's really creating a dashboard, right? That's kind of why we created the community, and why I showed you our dashboard. Because if you don't have a dashboard, you're not going to be able to fly anywhere. So anyway, that's why I just thought about that. So
You can't improve what you're not measuring. No, I love it. I love the still method. So what about socials? Where can we follow you on socials, or actually reach out to you directly? Any things like that?
yeah, if you look up Wealth Wisdom Financial on Instagram, podcast, YouTube, uh, you better be able to find Wealth Wisdom Financial. They're all different names, but it should say Wealth Wisdom FP or something like that,
Okay.
all over. So,
And Hannah, we've got a couple things coming in, a couple of the links you already mentioned in the comments. So you can go directly there. So awesome, Brandon. Well, thank you for sharing your story and your message and all your framework and processes. And I love Profit First, and I love learning how you're connecting that to infinite banking and all these other things to bring it together. So I know I'm personally looking forward to learning a lot more, and we'll be in touch. Thank you so
cool.
much.
Awesome. Thanks, Dr. Lance.
Okay, talk soon.
Yep.